yo, it's time for episode 45. We've done this together for 45 times. That's awesome, man.
85 total.
Yeah, counting the Mindset Mondays. But these long form,
45 of them.
45 of them, man. And I promise you, every time we come together and have the honor of being able to be blessed to even have the know-how and the will to, and no matter what that it takes to really do this for 45 consecutive weeks and 45 more, because that's the goal.
That's crazy, man.
Think about it. Hours.
Yeah. Coming up on a year.
And honestly, y'all, like those of you out there who are potentially like thinking about getting into some form of creative act that brings meaning, satisfaction, and fulfillment to your life, like just go out there and do it and experience like the growth that happens in you when you devote to that. Like think about where we started. Where did we start?
Well, that's what I was going to say, was it's growth and discovery. Because it, like, you don't have to be, I mean, obviously you want to listen and get feedback and listen to critique and try to become the best you. But we never did that in light of, oh, we want to be like this show or that show.
Never.
We never even had that conversation. So really it's also a discovery in who you are. And like you're saying, where we started and where we're at now, it's like, there's been some episodes where, you know, along the way you could think like, okay, like after 5 and then after like 20 and then keep going, right? And like especially the last 5 or 6, it's like, dude, we're changing and the show is changing, and so it's like a discovery too of
Absolutely.
who you are through the creative act of
Absolutely.
making a podcast.
You've made astronomical gains. You've made spiritual, emotional, psychological gains, man, since we kicked this thing off, since I met you in like a real positive way, bro, for real.
Thanks. Yeah, same to you.
So
Same to you. And the show and what we're exploring and how, like, and we talked about this before on the show too. Investing in this creative act has held us accountable in multiple ways, but I know for both of us in ways it's like, well, we got to keep growing.
Yeah.
We can't be stagnant and just,
No.
because we never feel like we have it figured out. So
way.
we're constantly trying to grow and learn and see how we can improve and what other knowledge is out there that we missed.
Absolutely.
So that's part of it too, is this has held us accountable to that.
Yeah.
Striving.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too, because what I've the meaning that I've been able to put around personal growth and self-actualization, right? And self-fulfillment is, that's just getting to know yourself better. That's what that means to me.
Yeah.
Because like the more you grow and the more you see what you're capable of and the more that you can let go of and the more you can forgive and the more that you can help, like you get closer to that real source of life energy that is driving you, that innate drive, that formative tendency that drives you to grow, develop, keep going. Like I think that's what personal growth is, man.
Yeah.
Is getting closer to what you really are, and that comes through self-knowledge. And that's why I think my biggest thing that I've learned about this experience with the Ultimate Pill and you and everyone who does listen is getting a good relationship with yourself is step one of anything, I think, when it comes to like pursuing any act. And that's what this has taught me, is like through that exploration, it was like, I don't think I have a really good relationship with myself. Like when this show kicked off, dude.
Yeah.
Like I went through,
I remember.
we dropped some bombs, dude, like early on when, you know, I was just getting some stuff off my chest, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, this show's really been able to lighten my heart a little bit and have a lot more compassion. And I think just like gratitude for the people that actually like go out there and take that risk to pursue like a heroic journey.
Yeah.
Really is what any like long-term creative act is it is a heroic journey. You will hit all the steps of the hero's journey, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Along the process, but it's, I don't know, it's just really, it's just exciting to see that kind of idea being, you know, brought to life in me in this show is like, you know what, man, it's it's all about learning about yourself. It's all about just pursuing something that makes you come to life. Like getting here, sitting with you, like gets me through a lot of things, you know, in some of those stressful times. So it's kind of lightened me a little bit. My shoulders definitely don't feel like there's much, like kind of get everything up my chest and kind of always remember, like, dude, you and Anthony have talked for like 45 hours about some really quality things that can help a person's life experience.
Yeah.
So don't forget that you talk about all those things, and it's held me accountable, like you said.
Yeah.
That you've got to try it, because if you don't try it, then you can't authentically talk about it.
Right.
And yeah, man, sorry, that was a rant about what the show's done for me, but it's good. It's therapy, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I think you're spot on, bro. Like, I mean, know thyself was, you know, with me.
What was that above again? I was trying to remember that.
It was above the door of the Oracle of Delphi in Greece. But it was also one of the, like, I think there are 66 commandments from the 7 sages of Athens, the ones that founded Athens. And they had, like, you know, their commandments. And I think the first one was know thyself.
You're so smart, man.
No, I'm not. I just read a lot. I'm a nerd. But that command to know thyself, and that's what you're getting at, and what you're doing a really good job at showing, is that even though there's just that 2-word sentence, the thyself part is so multi-layered and multifaceted. And I think that's one thing that I can humbly say that, man, after 45 episodes, we've had to have done a good job. I won't say a whole job, because I don't think that can ever be solely exhausted. But we've done a humbly good job of exploring all the different avenues of ways and depths that you can know thyself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what you just explained. You've gone down all these rabbit holes that are all under the umbrella term self. So
I was talking to a young man today, and it's pretty cool. It was sun went outside, sat on this little stone we have out there. It was really cool. And we were just talking, and he's got some anger issues, you know what I mean? And working through those, this, that, and the other. But we just went through like this little, I don't know, like story of, you know, hey, what did he say? Something along the lines of, he said something along the lines of people learn to be angry. And so he kind of knew. He's a very self-aware kid. So I thought, I was like, okay, I could definitely say some things that he would probably understand. And I told him the story. I was like, I think like when it starts, like, you know, there's that really good side of us, and then life happens, and we go through experiences and watch things, and people say things, and it starts piling up all that, you know? And the goal becomes sifting through all that and getting back down there and like remembering what you really are.
yeah,
And kind of that's what this really takes, man. And that's the delay. I was explaining to him delayed gratification. And I was like, that's delayed gratification, like knowing that you're going to be digging for quite some time to get back to, you know, that thing that really makes you feel good about being alive.
that's cool.
And then once you dig there, man, you get there, then you find satisfaction in like doing your best to make sure that that's what you're always looking for. That's what you're striving for. Yeah. And he got it.
That's cool.
Yeah, he got it.
That's cool, man. It's cool. They can get it. It's cool that they do.
That's self-knowledge, man.
Yeah. Well,
That's
dude, I mean,
self-knowledge.
I had the cool opportunity today because we're starting off season, and part of that is a lot of teaching up front. So what I do is I take the time out, and on day one, which is today, took 45 minutes to both the freshman group and then the JV varsity group. So over probably around 200 kids today, 200 young males.
Wow.
Got to teach them my philosophy, psychology, and like basically the why behind the way we program the off-season workouts.
Okay.
But it's so much more than just here's what workouts we're doing, because I open it up with like just all the benefits of training in general. You know, I showed them this huge meta-analysis and all the data of like 53 different studies they did of school-age kids that based against groups that don't lift and kids that do lift or do activity of some sort, and just the benefits of the kids that did do activity. I mean, cognitively, stuff we all know, right? So I'm just trying to show them the benefits of it. But then I got to get into the philosophy of strength training and why I do it. And I have 2-3 really slides. I need to show them to you. They're graphics.
Yeah, I want to see
up.
it, man.
Yeah, but the first one is about how the definition of strength. And the true definition of strength, as I tell them, is not a bench press. It's not a squat max. It's not how fast you can run. It's really simple. Strength is the ability to overcome. And I said, when you define it that way, I'm having them take notes and stuff. I'm like, when you define it that way, is it strictly physical? No, it's not. Exactly. I say it's physical and psychological. That's what true strength is, because it's about your ability to overcome. Overcome what? Hardship, suffering, the near-death experiences of having 500 pounds on a squat bar on your back,
Absolutely.
And then I get into some alchemy, man. You like this.
Let's go.
But I tell them very briefly, alchemists were the first chemists, and that's how we got science. But they were all about transmuting matter into its highest form, into its spirit. And I said, oftentimes they would talk about the elements of nature, air, earth, water, fire, but they'd always forget the fifth element. I go, do you guys know what the fifth element is? No, humanity. Humanity is the fifth element, and humanity is made out of humility and hubris. And then I define humility and hubris for them, and they're writing it down. And humility is the state of being humble, or a state of thinking you're not better than anybody else. But then you combine that with hubris, which is like a foolish or great amount of confidence in oneself.
Yeah.
And I said, it may seem paradoxical, but that is what humanity is. It's a combination of those two, and the two actually balance each other out. Humility will balance out hubris, and hubris will balance out being too humble, too passive.
Yeah.
In the same sense. And so I said, all of this is in light of saying that what I want you guys to be is controlled monsters. And that's there's no better place to learn how to do that than in this weight room.
Oh, dude.
So it was cool, man, to get to, you could see him perk up. But yeah, and I'm like, I'm talking about alchemy, but really I'm talking about strength training.
Yeah.
And so.
You're performing alchemy on them in that moment.
That's what I was trying to subtly suggest. Yes. And every time we step into the weight room, you're transmuting the matter of your body into
absolutely.
So that's why I see that corollary is you're literally performing alchemy every time you're in the weight room, and then we can get on this later, because I know you're in a place with energy, and so I think this ties in, maybe a good segue, but we don't have to go there yet. But I start talking about just the three parts of every movement. So there's the eccentric, isometric, and concentric part of a movement. And what we do is we train in all three. But I said, well, do you guys really know what this is about, right? I said, when eccentric and isometric parts of a lift, let's say a bench press, when I'm coming down with the bar to my chest, that's the eccentric part. Really what that is taking the kinetic energy of gravity in the bar and harnessing it. I go, what you guys are doing when you're lifting is harnessing energy and reallocating it and re-expressing it in another way. That's strength. And I said, that's football. Do you see the corollary in football? You're at a stationary position, you move, you take steps, you create kinetic energy, and you try to reallocate that energy in an efficient way to move someone against their will or to throw a ball. I go, so when we're training the eccentric part, the downward part, we need to learn how to harness that energy and store it in our body. The isometric part's at the bottom. That's where we harness it, collect it, and then we reallocate it and re-express it back up. So I go, you guys are I told him, you guys are like X-Men. You're like mutants. You can harness energy and reallocate it. And it's like some airbender type stuff, they were all like, whoa, bro, that's cool. So,
man,
that's what we're doing, bro.
In that last, how long was that? About 3 minutes?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You just completely opened my eyes again to the power of meaning that we've landed on with this show.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk about primal energy and that life force, that formative tendency, that innate drive, that generative drive that wants us to create gold out of base metal and perform literal alchemy on the world. Hey, rolling with Anthony's idea. Welcome to episode 45, because that's what we're going to do.
Yep. Because
think about, so experience, meaning, emotion, right? That's the big three.
Yeah.
The experience is bar coming down on my chest, right? What you gave them was a powerful meaning.
Yeah.
A very positive meaning to the experience.
Yep.
Through storytelling and metaphor.
Yeah. Yep.
And self-disclosure. So that meaning when that bar down there now becomes that may be pretty darn close to love. I don't know, man. Because I'm thinking there's acceptance, you're still powerful. Reason would make you think that I can or can't do this. But if you just love the fact that you've just been given such a powerful meaning and this is worth every ounce of your energy, you're probably in a state of love, man. Because that's pure just support for life.
Yeah.
So you just know that you have to support your life, and then the power that comes from that, I guarantee you, is higher than if that child was, or that athlete or whoever was in a state of fear. Oh my gosh, this is going to kill me.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And the meaning to it was, or if I don't put this up, my coach is going to be so pissed.
Exactly.
Or if dude, this is totally going to kill me. Like the meaning is completely different, which is going to create a different emotion.
Yeah.
And that's where this primal energy idea is going to come to life as we think about it in the lens of conscious-based performance and metaphysical idealism. Like there's a way to harness what you just said, all that kinetic energy around us, but it comes from what the event or the experience means to us.
Yes. So, okay. So a couple things. I want to come back to that.
Primal energy time tonight. Let's go, man.
Yeah, let's go. This is good. I'm seeing a lot of, I knew we just need to talk about it because connections would start coming out.
Cool.
But one thing you said about changing the meaning and how it's not so much I'm going to die. It's funny that you said that because I literally had, I think right after that told them, or no, right before, I was talking about, if you want to get stronger, here's how we train strength. And I said, what you guys need to fundamentally understand is that your central nervous system is built ready to adapt, but it won't adapt if it's not faced with a big enough stimulus. And so the stimulus has to be stress when it comes to strength training. We have to stress the muscles. And I said, how stressful? Well, the stress has to be violent. And what I mean by that is your central nervous system has to be under the impression that it is going to die. That's how stressful it has to be. So, and for the example of that is when you put 500 pounds on a bar and you put that on your back, your central nervous system is screaming, what the heck is going on? We are going to die. Especially if it's, whatever the weight is, if you're pushing, trying to max. And I said about changing the narrative and changing the meaning, like you mentioned, I said later on, but that's why I go, if you don't get it up and you fail, I said, stop. You didn't fail, bro. Like as long as we failed safely, right? We have our safety bars and our rack set up and you have a spotter and you failed safely. I go, you still faced an adaptation.
Absolutely.
You still showed your central nervous system a stimulant for it to bump up against and have to change. And I said, so in reality, you didn't lose. You didn't fail. You won. And so now next time, do you think when you get under that same weight, under that bar, will your central nervous system and your body be a little bit more adapted for that stimulus? Yeah, coach. Yeah, exactly. So you still won.
That's beautiful, dude.
So that's cool. Just another example because you mentioned dying.
And what's great too is you got to think about the brain as like a summarizing machine.
Yeah, exactly.
It summarizes, it takes sensory input and then based off the meaning and the belief system, it puts it in and it summarizes. So you get a summary.
Yeah.
But even in that moment of adaptation that you talked about, like you start developing new summaries of the sensory input of 500 pounds on your back.
Right, exactly.
And then the more and more that you develop the strength physically, the more liable you're able to have the courage to face that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're extending the system is what I call it.
That's cool.
I like it. Just expand the system is what I call it.
Yeah, you've said, I like that. Yeah, and that's good because we need to do that.
We're an open system, dude.
Right. And we if it's closed at all, it's because of the confines we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And we need to open that stuff back.
And that's what self-knowledge is, and that's maybe what primal energy is.
Yeah.
That's a part of it right there. Is we're an open system, dude.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree. And but real quick to that point, though, you were talking about the reallocation of energy. I was going to say something that I think might tie into that because I haven't even taken it yet. I was talking about that for strength training. But what's cool about Wednesdays is maybe we can start to bring in the fact that that can be your approach to all of life, like is taking in the energy that through the experience of whatever you're experiencing and reallocating that in a positive manner instead of instead of absorbing it and letting it bog you down or holding on to it. And what that made me think of was like the Tao Te Ching and Tai Chi, bro. Like I did Tai Chi for a little bit when I was during COVID. During COVID, we had nothing to do, so I started learning Tai Chi online. Might sound silly, and I was doing it in my backyard.
That sounds really cool, actually.
Well, so I did it because, again, another Avatar: The Last Airbender reference. The water benders their movements were primarily based off Tai Chi. Yeah, and Tai Chi was the kind of, it was the most formalized practice of Taoism. Yeah. So Taoism is about, it's like Wu Wei. You
flow state.
Right. You flow, and a lot of Tai Chi is flowing with movement. And so I started thinking when you were saying that, I was like, bro, like what if that was, maybe that's what they're getting at when Tai Chi practitioners or Taoists look at reality that way. It's like, man, what if we could kind of take that principle too and say, whatever the flow of the energy that is the experience of my life right now, instead of getting stuck in it or weighed down by it or, reallocating it towards hurting others. What if I found a way to take that energy in my body, prepared my body in a way that it could take that energy, and prepared my mind, and I don't know, reallocated it, re-expressed it in another positive way.
Yeah, and I was thinking as you were saying that, not being a victim to your circumstances.
Right.
So I think it just really gets back to the root of responsibility.
Yeah.
And just kind of developing that awareness that the conditions of my life are either going to put me in a position to where I make things worse or I make things better. Because there's, like you said, there's always an allocation of energy, right?
Right.
So there's no neutral. Like the energy has to be doing something.
Yeah.
So I think when you kind of start thinking about it like that, like either way, I'm going to have to exert some form of energy. And if I started to take this really supportive way of just being in the world and doing my best to make things just a little bit better because I was there. And I think that fundamentally change a person's life, man.
For sure.
And there's going to be moments where you don't achieve the ideal, for lack of better words. But I think the awareness that's possible may be right there at the beginning, man. And I think we kind of call that responsible leadership in conscious-based performance. That's probably why it's measure 1.
Yeah.
Because you just need to develop that sense of urgency, and that sense of urgency that'll develop because of an awareness that you have this life that needs to be experienced in a way that is good for you and the people around you. And just that right there, that's fine. Like in any addiction, the first thing is, the admittance to an addiction. So sometimes just the awareness that there's some things that we can be exploring and understanding to improve things around us.
That's good.
I think that's step 1. So I'm going to go with responsibility, man. What do you think?
No, I think I agree. And it takes me, because you mentioned awareness, it takes me to that non-dualistic ends that metaphysical idealism leads you to, which is this idea that we've talked about on the show before, a couple episodes back, about the infinite I am that's resting behind all of our sense perceptions. And I bring that up because that is infinite awareness. It's constantly and always presently aware. And so I think what you're talking about is forcing yourself back up against that backdrop of infinite awareness and realizing that in a way to keep with the energy analogy and the Tai Chi, it's like you've been constantly, before you were standing in that infinite awareness, you were like constantly just reactively like energy in, bounce it back out, energy in, bounce it back out. And by taking that step back in realizing your ultimate responsibility in that, you can rest in the peace of that infinite awareness and realize, okay, wait a minute, there's a part of me that's just constantly behind all of it.
Yeah.
I don't have to reactively engage, without any control, the energy that's coming in.
Yeah.
I don't have to send it back that way or say whatever, I hope that analogy is making sense. So
there's less, honestly, there's less conscious thought and more just conscious awareness of the unfolding of experience. And that gets powered with intention.
Yes. Yeah,
and I think like the initial choice of the meaning of the whole context of things.
I think that gets into the primal energy that you're referencing. Like
because I was going to say this, I was going to take it back to primal energy. So please do that, because that does check out to me. Yeah,
I think it does too. I think getting into that infinite awareness with that intention of knowing that you do have way more control in it's like, I think those ancient Chinese masters, man, they got with the Tao Te Ching, like like the water, the expression of water and like letting the water flow and not being forceful and not being reactive or not damming it up. We used that analogy, I think, a couple episodes back too, with the damming of conscious flow. But let's see if this taps back into like the primal energy idea. Going back to the story that I said earlier about the analogy that I used with that young man, or that metaphor, which was really interesting. Like the metaphor I used today, and then the metaphor you used. Kind of really shows our personalities. I thought that was cool. Yeah. But so I was talking about instant gratification and delayed gratification in the context of anger. So now it came full circle back to me. So that's when I gave the example or the visual of, there's this really good part of us, but then
experience, trauma, and, you know, piled a whole bunch of stuff on there. And then told him that with anger, right? Because now that's what's really kind of being shown now, since that good part of us, we got all that stuff piled on top of it. That anger, right? Like how satisfying is it in the moment, you know? He's, oh, you know, satisfying. And I was like, how about a little bit after? And he's, oh. And I was like, see, that's instant gratification. It's that anger, right? Mm-hmm. But what delayed gratification is knowing that every day, like those small little acts mm-hmm. that you do that are right and that you know are healthy for you and the people around you, like you start digging away. And I was like, you're not going to see it right away, man. It's going to take a lot of work every day to dig down there. But eventually when you get to that point, man, and you've delayed your gratification and you're like, man, all that effort and all that training was worth it, because now I know that if you just do the things that are correct for you, that you find satisfaction in that. Mm-hmm. You no longer find satisfaction in the anger outburst. Mm-hmm. You find satisfaction in that.
Yeah.
And to me, that is, gosh, what even got me on that rant, man? I just started thinking about that more, and I hope that helped that young man. I think.
Yeah, I bet it did.
You know, because I told him, don't be bummed that you're angry. Like that's number one.
Yeah.
And like in any, like in a real counseling thing, like we can't be angry about being angry, because that gets us in a negative feedback loop. So the first stage is acknowledgement.
Right.
So, hey, I acknowledge that, hey, it's okay to be angry, but man, delay gratification, put in the effort, man. Mm-hmm. Grow. Learn yourself better, because then when you find satisfaction in doing the right things, you'll be in a much better place in life.
Yeah.
So
I think too, again, keep talking on it. That was good. And I think maybe another avenue for people, and maybe not necessarily that kid, but people, I'm just trying to think of other people that, myself even in the past, that have dealt with anger issues or being angry or reactive in their anger. I think part of it too, with an energy metaphor, is sometimes that energy gets blocked up and you don't have healthy expressions or healthy outlets or avenues to express, you know? And so I know for me personally, bro, when I was younger, like that's what I would do a lot, is I felt like it was never explicitly stated, but I always kind of had to bottle emotions, and then they would bottle, or maybe a lot of it too was my insecurity in being able to express them in a healthy manner. Yeah. And then I would bottle, and then I'd snap and just get mad, go crazy, whatever, yell, scream, whatever. And then it was like, I can look back at that and be like, well, I was damming up the energy of the anger. Like, I like how you said, like, don't feel bad about being angry. Mm-hmm. That is, and we've never you're talking about infinite awareness and blah, 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 you know, like that, not identifying with that stuff, but we've never degraded emotional uprisings. Yeah. You know, like,
absolutely.
That's going to happen. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something, I don't know what you think about that, but like, finding healthy avenues or outlets, or how even learning how to express it in a healthy manner.
So I think what we've landed on is your example with Tai Chi, and then my example with the young man, and just talking about primal energy. Like maybe it really is just a very intentional awareness of how you are thinking, speaking, and behaving in your experience. Like maybe that's primal energy, because everything you talked about was a very slow, like almost like aligned and tapped in like experience, to where like you can genuinely, like sometimes like when you go to get into some of these higher states and these experiences like start becoming common for you, like as you put in this work of really to get to know yourself, like there'll be moments where you feel that just energy within you, like, oh, this is life, man. And there is a life force, there's a life power, there's a primal energy within us all, man. Yeah. That is really just something so real. Mm-hmm. And I think getting to those experiences is worth like everything that we talk about. And I think it goes back to the simplicity of things. Mm-hmm. And knowing that maybe the like real outrageous outburst, the, you know, tirade of anger, the even like self-sabotage of guilt, like all those are things that, like when we start identifying that they're happening to us and we know that they don't make us feel good, man, like you could start doing that work that gets you back to those places of like just sheer simplicity, man. Like I'm over here talking about a kid like imagining that he's getting through all this dirt and stuff, getting back to like that real source of what brings him to life. And you're talking about Tai Chi, like we're talking about a primal energy. Like, why aren't we being warrior-like and dynamic? Like, we're going to this place to where maybe it's in peace of mind and tranquility and like living in a state of love that you become a very powerful presence in the world.
Yeah.
That's primal energy, dude.
Yep.
Are you picking up the same thing?
Yeah.
Like it's a real slow, methodical flow state like process of going through the experience of life?
Yeah, I keep, like, as you're talking about it, I keep coming up with the word like stability, like a stableness, a steadfastness. It's probably a better word. Steadfast. I'm not blown which way and that way with the wind of emotions or the wind of experience that's happening to me. I'm just steadfastly solid and stable in myself. To me, it keeps, I guess where I'm in an Oriental area.
Straight and narrow is the path.
Yeah. But I keep thinking of like the samurai, bro. And or like even the Jedi. In Star Wars, the Jedi are based off the samurai class. And like, you know, in comparison to the Sith and the dark side of the Force, like they're all about stability of the emotions, a detachment almost from those.
Discipline.
Yes, discipline. Not being swayed by
selfless service.
Yeah. They're keepers of the peace, and they're servers of the Republic. But yeah, I mean, and you can see that it's opposite played out in the Sith, where it's like they're all emotion, they're all anger, they're all retribution. It's like there's great. They talk about how there's just such good power. There's great power in the dark side because it is emotional, and it is, but it's also self-sabotaging, like we've talked about, and all of that to say it's all based on, you know, the fundamental principles of Bushido and the samurai, and they were all about that stuff. I think the Oriental side of the world and the globe has always, you know, because we are talking about something ancient here.
Yeah.
And I like that's why I like how you call it primal energy. But like I'm telling you, man, the Japanese, Chinese people have always figured that out in ancient history. Like, they've always gotten it. But yeah, I think it's a steadfastness, just this. I don't know, but getting
like
back, I'm I'm seeing a connection
that,
to strength though, because I wanted to say this.
like
I didn't
that,
get to teach this in the class today, but like people think strength, again, a misconception of strength. Like I told the kids, it's about your ability to overcome. But another misconception is like they think it's a strong bench press or a strong squat. Well, that's actually dynamic power. That's actually power. That's displacement of a force with velocity. Okay. Strength actually, to me, is the tower built on a firm foundation that withstands storms, that withstands sieges. It's just there. That's strength.
A primal force.
Yes, bro. And I think that's what we're coming back to is
a powerful presence, dude.
Yeah, embodying that in your presence. And maybe we can, in your own way, in my own way, like talk about how maybe we've gotten close to that or get close to that. But that's what I feel like we're landing is like this strong tower that withstands time, it withstands nature, it withstands sieges of humanity. Like I don't know how that.
So I think first thing we do, let's do this before we move on, because again, I think this is a real important idea. Let's flesh this thing out, because I think there's a book in here for us, man. I think if we can harness these higher order ideas that we bring on the Ultimate Pill and you know, inform and share experience in a way that talks about this primal energy that, you know, we could attune to and use to our advantage to be more self-confident, more self-aware, you know, our higher self-esteem. And maybe the first thing we have to do is let's talk about the current assumption, we'll say, or the current definition of when you hear the word primal, what are you thinking?
Ancient.
Okay. Warrior, like cutting, dynamic, just like kill, like kind of a violent energy in a sense.
I almost think pre-human.
Okay.
Like almost primal to me is almost so ancient that it's before even the concept of what we think of as humanity.
And then there's what we're going to try to do with it and show that, dude, when you're living in a real powerful way, you're actually out there going with the flow, fulfilling your responsibilities, smiling at people when they walk by you. Like, that's primal energy. Like, maybe it's a really positive thing, actually.
I think so. Yeah.
Very positive thing. Like when we think primal, let's not think of like let's think of something that is like of the highest order. And that's what I think primal energy is going to be for us. It's literally operating from the highest order of what you really are.
Yeah.
Like that's primal energy to me.
Well, to me, then it's the fundamental ground of being.
It's that second layer that you get, man, when you become very self-aware.
Yeah.
There's reality that comes in, and then there's that
Yeah.
second degree that you place it against that says, no, this is how you need to interpret this in order to make this a somewhat efficient and productive experience.
Yeah. There's
that second layer. There really is. And that's what I'm going to try to, with counseling, that's what I'm going to try to teach people. Is there's that layer that's coming in. There's that degree that's coming in of input. But when you can develop that awareness, man, to place it against another degree of higher awareness, then helps you process the experience a little bit better, man.
I feel
that's
like
primal freaking energy, dude. Like this is what we're tapping into, man.
Yeah. I feel like it is just that. I feel like it's the same thing as this infinite awareness that I've discovered, because it sounds to me like
second degree. Why did I call it that?
I don't know, but I like that. That to me is that infinite
degree. Is that
infinite? Yeah, that infinite awareness.
Because it's boom.
It's just being, and like getting back to the connection with primal energy. Okay, so I started thinking about metacognition and just regular like animalistic cognition, because that is a superpower of ours as humans. You know, and we use the analogy of a dog just dogging. Like they're very reactive. They're very ritualistic in the sense that like their days are very pattern based. That's why if they're thrown off on their pattern, bro, like it's chaos for them.
A dog isn't aware of his dogness.
Right. And so, but the thing is, and I think the thing that we're trying to get at is that more on the level of metacognition. And the reason why this is even significant at all is because I think the more I think about it, and I fall into this trap too, this isn't like an accusatory pointing the finger, is that most of us fall into the tendency to operate like a dog in that animalistic cognition,
right?
Where it is based on pattern, it's based on habit, it's based on reaction, right? Stimulus reaction.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about with this primal energy and the ground of being and the infinite I am that's behind it, the infinite awareness that's behind it, is stretching and taking a step up to the second degree that you're talking about, this second level of metacognition, where you're behind it all. You're behind the reactionary experiences going on that are stimulus of existing, and you're just being.
Yeah.
And in that firm foundation and on the ground of being, you can be at peace. You can be steadfast. You can be rest assured.
Yeah.
And make metacognitive smart decisions as you sift through the experiences of reality.
I love that. And I want to bring in, I think I have actually an idea that we can share that's very practical and could show how we can harness its primal energy, this life energy, this formative tendency, this innate drive to grow, develop, and evolve, that rest in a potential state inside us all. Is, let's talk about the idea of maybe when you become the whole self, you're fully aware of the potential that is your life. And let's start with the function of self, or I digress, the structure of self. Let's just give that one tonight. I think this is really important because you're talking about going really deep within and coming out with something that is going to help you believe the words that you just said, because it takes a lot of work to get that experience to where something triggers, almost a light bulb goes off, and you kind of start to think, you know what, that's worth exploring, because that's all we're doing, is exploring on this show, in our lives. That's all Anthony and I are doing, is we are identifying things that bring us passion and interest. We are going to explore what could potentially become of them, and along the way, we're going to understand a lot of cool things. And that's what we're doing tonight, talking about primal energy.
Yeah.
First level is unconscious. That's the first thing you have to understand. That's what develops the structure of self. And this comes from Dr. Paul Contes and his whole, he said, he calls it the structure, or the self concept, but it's the function is another portion. But the first thing on the structure is unconscious. So you have to go into those programs or those negative thought patterns or those habitual thought patterns or the a lot of it has to do with kind of understanding not only the programming themselves, right? The reason you're believing the way you're believing and thinking the way you're believing, but you've got to understand like what caused them, like the source. And if we don't bring those into the next level, which is conscious, then they constantly live within the unconscious, feeding off energy and having us do behaviors that we just do, but we're not conscious of. And therefore we do a lot of, at that point, defense mechanisms is the third level. Those are, oh my gosh, Freud had 8, but the ones that I think are really common. Projection, I think, is a very common one. Denial's a big one. Escapism, those are all defense mechanisms that we start now implementing because we don't want to have those unconscious negative emotions to come into the conscious. And the only way to do that is to develop these defense mechanisms. It's at this point when you're in the structure and you're trying to like understand things, if you don't process through those things, then they become negative defense mechanisms, because there's positive defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
But then from that, you have these defense mechanisms now, which cause behaviors, habit formation, develops cognition, which turns into your character structure. So now this is how you are taking the concept of self and applying it to the everyday challenges of your life. Okay, that's a character structure. Okay, it's designed by our goals. It's designed by, so I think the best way to go with the character structure I found recently is it's with goals, ethical principles, and I would probably land on values. Like that's what determines a person's character. And then from there, man, it's a structure of self at the top. Just that awareness eye that you're talking about. If you don't go through all those stages that you're talking about, okay, you're not going to be able to get to that point to where what we're talking about with primal energy is having that ability to even be aware of what we are. And I hope that process helped. I'm serious. It's Dr. Paul Conte. If you guys wanted to look it up, Structure of Self, I got a ton of value from it. But it goes the unconscious, conscious, defense mechanisms, character structure, and self. And then he's got this like iceberg model that shows how, the function of self is above and the structure of self is the majority of what's underneath. And I think a lot of this work that we're talking about in primal energy, and I'm going to get off my high horse here after this one. Sorry, you got me going on it, but that's what gives you the ability to have that moment where you're like, whoa, dude, like I am powerful, man. Like if I believe real strong and I like put some really like growth oriented meaning on the context of my life and just really commit to supporting life and doing all I can with it, like you're harnessing something that's real powerful. And to me, it seems very positive.
Yeah, I agree.
Dang, sorry, man. That was a long one.
No, don't apologize. That's what this show's for.
Structure of self, y'all. I hope that brought some. You got to hit all the cupboards, is what they say.
I like that.
You got to hit all the cupboards.
Young got me all the way up to the top. My divings and delvings into Young for years, bro. I mean, I think I was 22 when I stumbled upon him.
Yeah.
And it was basically from like 22 to 27. So yeah, 5 years of just reading every single thing I could of his words.
So having read one of the most profound thinkers in history, we're talking about primal energy tonight, and we're trying to sift through and explore and hopefully understand a little bit better how we could harness and really be that source of life energy, formative tendency, and innate drive within us, that generative drive. Having read Jung, what do you think he would say about primal energy?
I think he would agree with the way that we're dancing around it as far as a definition. I think he would want to discern between that and Nietzsche's will to power.
Okay.
Because that's where I wanted to go, was understanding that in a clearer light, which we don't have to, but we can. But I was going to say that whole structure, which I really like how Conti has it. It sounds like a way more fleshed out, detailed structure of Young getting you there? Because like Young got me there, but it was not. It was like all over the place.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it wasn't a hierarchical ladder like that. So I think he would like that. But I was gonna say that whole structure, like before we can even get someone to understand the primal energy, like you're saying, they have to understand
There's a structure.
the subconscious. Yeah,
and the structure that goes to their whole sense of self, their self-concept.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge. I don't know. It could be a stumbling block because like so many people, they don't even have. They might have an interest in self. I won't even say self-help, but like self-improvement. But if there isn't enough people emphasizing the importance of the subconscious level as a blockade to even improving yourself, you know, if you're always on the surface, you're always going to be undermined. That was one thing Young taught me was like, you're always like those that I kept thinking of it like when you were explaining it too. Like I don't know if he described it this way, but I feel like Young would say like, if you're ever out in the ocean, it's those invisible undercurrents under the water that you sometimes can't see, but that will pull you out. They'll pull your legs out from under you, or you'll look down and then you'll look up and you've drifted all the way from the beach, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, how did I get here? And I'm like, how many times in our life does that happen? Yeah. Where we just boom, 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 reacting, blah, 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 experience is happening, life is happening, and you look and you're like, how did I get here? And it was like that invisible current of the subconscious was pulling you all along.
Yeah.
And if we're never aware of that, then we're never going to be able to fully, I think, or in a healthy manner, step onto the path of self-improvement and self-knowledge if we don't acknowledge that. And I think so many people, I mean, it's becoming way more popular than it was, but psychology even is just like, oh, that's, you know, like I'm talking about the layman here, like the most normal people. Yeah. And you and I are doing our best to try to implement that more into I guess, the secular world of, you know, everyday life. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge stumbling block.
Man. So, all right. So tell me, so you said he would like the structure. Tell me a little bit more about like what you mean, like moving them along. Like
the
what
current?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cause I want to go on that. Just so tell me, tear that apart a little bit more.
Well, just in the way of that analogy, right? Like I went to North Carolina and I got carried out.
Okay.
Not like in a aggressive manner, but like I was just hanging out, you know, floating. And then I looked up and I was like, holy crap, the beach is really far. And it scared me. And that current was just, that undercurrent was just taking you. Like my dad used to, whenever we would go to the beach when we were younger, he'd always be, you know, he's pretty overprotective. But he's like, be careful of the undertow, you know, you don't want to get swept away or whatever. You can't go too deep. So in the same manner, that analogy, of that analogy,
I got it now.
Your subconscious emotions or the repressed memories or traumas that you have down there, they will subvert you. They actually, there's a part of you that, like the jester, like the joker, will play pranks on you. And it's through, Young noticed this through slip of the tongue, you know, like tongue-in-cheek kind of remarks where it's like you say something you didn't mean to say, but it slipped out, right? And it's almost like the subconscious will betray you if you're not conversing with it and trying to heal with it and then let those things out. Like I feel like that's what you're getting at with that structure. We have to start down there because if not, you might think you're doing all this work on the surface. I'm building this house or this castle, but you're building it on a shifting foundation of sand that could be pulled out from under you in an instant.
Well, I say it as such. I say that we have to know why we believe the way we believe.
Yes.
We have to know why we think the way we think.
Yep.
And we have to know why we behave the way we behave. Like that's everything you're talking about right there.
Yes. And all those repressed traumas.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's another avenue too that we could go into within the realm of therapy. And
but
counseling.
It's painful to go to some of those places, and that's
Yep. But if you don't,
that's the paradox here.
Yep.
But if you don't, then that's where that delayed versus instant gratification comes back in. That's tapping into that primal energy. That's knowing that I need to have faith. Yep. And that's the idea that I picked up from your current is you have to have faith that that's there.
Yeah.
And I think within that faith, you know, that helps alleviate a lot of that unconscious fear that lives within us all because of things we've been told to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Because of experiences that we've had, because of things we've seen. Like it causes us to, I think, live in a state of fear that bogs that faith. And just, you know what, if I just show up and put in as much effort as possible to learn and develop my abilities and intelligence and have faith that there's something taking care of us as we do this. And when you really choose to make something special of this and learn from it, like, I'm not going to say everything's going to work out. There's still going to be stress.
Right.
There's still going to be
Hardship.
negativity. There's still going to be hardship. That's a non-negotiable. But you always feel better about the experience.
Yeah.
When you come from a place like that.
Yep. And I would add as a footnote there that I think some people in this world are aware of those things.
Absolutely.
Being there. But defense mechanism is, well, because I've heard this, I already know my issues. And I think something that we've been trying to really hit on lately is about the positive vastness that there is to each person. Like we keep saying there's so much more to you than you can even comprehend.
Man.
But there's also like the dark side of that or the negative side of that.
Yeah.
There's also so much more potential trauma or hurt that you are not even aware of, and that you can't begin aware of, and then therefore begin to heal until you start pulling that thread, right? Like we've been talking about, that is going to be painful. It's going to be, that's where faith comes in. Like you said, I like that. But yeah, man, like you might think you've got a handle on it, and then what keeps happening? Keep slipping up, keep messing up, or you look up and the beach is far away, and you're like, how did I get here? If you've ever had to ask that, how did I get to this? How did I get it to where everybody's pissed off at me and I messed up again, or I said the wrong thing at work, or I can't shut my mouth, stuff like that. Like, if you've ever been there, that was a moment where you were swept away by that undercurrent.
Yeah.
So there's way more under there than, I guess that involves humility, a humility to say there might be more. And I think there's a misconception, and you'd probably be better to comment on this, but around the idea of trauma, like people think trauma is just PTSD, like with veterans. And it's like, no, bro, like a really bad breakup could be trauma.
It's emotional, social, mental, spiritual trauma can occur at any point to anybody.
Yeah.
And spiritual trauma is certainly a real thing.
Oh, I believe it.
And that's kind of what we're really harping on right now. If we're talking about trauma, like a lot of times that experience gets repressed and pushed down because having it in the conscious mind is too painful. So it's repressed, but all that repression, that energy needs to, express itself in ways, and how it does is through some of those programs that you were alluding to earlier that we're so grateful that a lot of people are aware of. But sometimes, like when you're doing things repetitively and it's bringing the undesired result consistently, it's probably due to something that is within the unconscious that hasn't been identified, explored, and understood. And it's through understanding that we can bring it into the conscious and process through it, ultimately forgive self as well as all parties involved in the event. And then at that point, you get to kind of a level of acceptance to where, and you're in a much better place. But if it just remains it remains repressed and pushed down, and it presents itself in unhealthy fashions most of the time. So all this we're talking about, this primal energy, like how we are now diving into the unconscious, like it's going to take a lot of effort in order to have the humility and gratitude. I think that's kind of what I was landing on. Yeah. Agency, humility, and gratitude are probably kind of like three practical takeaways that we can talk about to actually get into like a day-to-day practice of trying to get to that primal energy, man. Is it's good. Agency, humility, and gratitude.
Yeah. That's good. I like that. And I think that'll help lead to empathy, because everything we're talking about, like if you just take a step back and be like, okay, holy crap, you're telling me there's this much to just me and that I need to work on. And then you start to realize, okay, go to work the next day and you look at the people that, are angry or upset or, being mean or hateful. And then you take a step back and realize, holy crap, maybe they have a lot of crap to work on too.
Yeah, dude.
And it kind of gives that perspective of empathy where you can realize, like what metaphysical idealism did for me is like
compassion too, man.
Yeah, compassion. Like, yeah, compassion's better because it's like, man, First of all, and therefore, and that's also kind of an avenue to humility. It's like, before you judge, bro, like, also remember how much crap you got to work on. I'm saying that to myself too.
Facts.
As a reminder, like,
Facts.
I've not, am I perfect? No, I've not worked out nearly all of that stuff that I've still got to heal, you know, and this is
literally is a lifelong journey. Like, let's get that clear.
For sure. Yeah. Cause you're 10 years ahead of me. Right. And
it is. It should be what self-learning, I think, is like what we're really all talking about when we're saying like continuous learning and all that is really healthy for you. Like, I think when we just continuously like try to learn ourselves throughout our entire life keeps us something really meaningful, man. And it keeps you going. Yep. Keeps you going, man.
Yep. Yeah. And it's something to also kind of a hard pill to swallow on the ultimate pill with all of this.
What we're on right now. This was a good one, man.
A hard pill to swallow with this. Something that's easier said than done is all the work we're talking about and the necessary like realization of that structure of self and how it pertains to, you got to work through that before you can get to the actual primal energy we're talking about. Well, that's something you should probably at least be working on before you start a meaningful, lasting relationship, before you get married, before you have kids. Because I wholeheartedly believe this, and I got to shout out my brother on this. He's very big on this. Like, he's married. He's been married since he was 21. He was the first kid to get married. They're really young, and they don't have kids yet. And when you ask him, he's like, flat out, one, we're still figuring out our careers. He just finished his master's. You know, he's trying to be a professor. But two, he's like, because he's in therapy, he's like, bro, I got stuff I got to work on that I don't want passed down to my kids. I don't want to be held responsible for the genetic inheritance of past trauma or past hurt or whatever, you know? I'm like, dang, dude, that's solid. Like, I respect that.
That's primal energy, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
that's primal energy right there.
I think that stuff's real. You know, and that's a whole nother avenue you got to add to the subconscious is like stuff you've inherited.
Yeah, man.
Addictions, angers, hurts.
Absolutely.
You know, the Bible had this concept of familial or generational curses for a reason. I think that was something that they were really experienced and felt, and we do too. Like, and it goes. Today we're kind of exploring the shadow side of a lot of stuff we explored because like we've talked about how your the generational map affects you positively can also affect you negatively. Yeah. You know, what did your grandpa or your dad or whatever, what did they battle that you're now battling? You never thought about it that way. It's like, holy crap, that's something.
Absolutely.
It's like, do I want to be responsible for passing that down again, another generation?
Absolutely. And what's so exciting is everything that we're talking about tonight and this idea of evolution is a very meaningful thing that I hope you're taking in a very positive light.
For sure.
Like, we can all break the chain if we just commit to our personal evolution. Like, we can break the chain. Yep. Like, Anthony and I, we're trying to break the chain right now. Like, we're trying to do something that we've both been thinking about for years. And we're just full blown committed to like evolution, man. So just know that you know, just you committing to that path is something so remarkable. Yeah. And I just wanted to provide that. Like, you can break the chain. Like, if you've been through some stuff and like you're in a tough place and your parents raising you a certain way or raised you a certain way and you just got life just seems kind of hard sometimes. Like, I just want you to know to have hope, man. Yep. And I think it starts with everything we talked about tonight is diving deep into a lot of those things that we don't like to put into our awareness because they hurt. We need to explore and understand those things. Yeah. And when you do that, man, you tap into a source of energy. Yeah. And then you become really devoted to the evolution of your consciousness and what you are as an emotional state. Yep. As an experience of life. Yeah. So there's hope. You got this. Just keep moving because it's all an emotional state. Yeah. I've known Primal Energy before we even talked about it. Yeah. But we're just giving it a really powerful name that can really combine all both our ideas together. But it's power and it's an emotional state. And it's how things mean to us and what we value in them and what we find significant. That is what our brain correlates as meaning. The brain correlates meaning as the significance, I'm going to say it again, the value and why we find it important, which creates our emotional state. Yeah. So meaning into emotional state, I'm going to get into it right away. I don't want to run too long on this one. But from that emotional state, y'all, determines whether we're being forceful or whether we're being powerful. There's a literal way that we can harness this energy, and it simply comes through intention and conscious choice of what something means to us, which in turn will create either a negative life destructive emotion or positive life supportive emotion. This is all tested. I've talked about this all the time, but I'm going to get into it real quick to make sure that I could explain myself correctly. But this is all proven through kinesiologic muscle testing. The human body, in the presence of truth, which is all life supportive emotional states, will strengthen, will become more powerful. The human body, okay, the nervous system, okay, being regulated by this primal energy, finds power in the presence of truth, which is life supportive. In a negative, life destructive place where it is not truth, it is not supportive, the human body weakens. The strongest of man, they've shown it, and they've done it in auditoriums, and everyone does. It's scientifically proven. And I say this, that's primal energy, is when we tap into that emotional state of courage, that emotional state of acceptance, neutrality. Man, no matter what, I got this. I can do this. That's a good place to be, man. Even if you're a reasonable person, you think about things in the best way possible, they would create a good outcome in reality. Great place. We need scientists and everybody. Then there's love. If you're coming from a place of love, you think you're weak, you are powerful. I'm telling you right now. There's a whole scale that calibrates this. Unconditional love is 540, and it's exponential, by the way. So that's 540 to the 10th power. Like, you're talking primal energy. You're talking harnessing your energy now. And it's coming through emotional states, y'all. And it's the meaning that we place on experience. Mm-hmm. Then you start getting into peace. And everything that you were talking about earlier with Tai Chi and telling that young man to dig through the sift and get down there and uncover, get through all those things and that stuff that you need to process through. And then you'll get to that place of peace, man. And when you're in a place of peace, you got faith in life, and you got agency and gratitude, and you're taking responsibility, and you have meaning, value, and belief. You're planning for excellence. You got a service frame of mind. You're doing all these things. Then you start getting into, when we start talking about enlightenment, like, you got to understand how powerful, even though a lot of people like that are in a very meditative state and you don't see them being very active in the world. Well, maybe that goes back to what we landed on about 30 minutes into this show, is maybe it is in the silence, man. So you see a lot of them just in a very tranquil, silent place. Maybe that's goes back to what we landed on about 30 minutes into the show, was maybe it's in the silence, and you start realizing that there's something so, my gosh, man, like, screw it, I'm gonna use it. Something so, like, literally loving that is genuinely taking care of everything. And when we understand that that's an awareness that's been gifted to us, and we take a lot of responsibility in understanding and exploring it, then that's primal energy. Mm-hmm. So primal energy is being someone who is understood that life is here to take care of life. And more so, the more that we take care of life, the more life takes care of us. Mm-hmm. And we're tapping into this current of life experience that is perpetually evolving from potentiality to actuality. And it's all determined by the choices that we make that derive from what something means to us. And that will get you to a place of primal existence, y'all. I'm telling you, please listen to what I just said. I've read so much about this, and I find so much passion in it. Is genuinely, when you start harnessing those positive emotions within yourself, you will be more powerful, and you will face the day-to-day challenges of life in a healthy, productive, efficient manner. Mm-hmm. That's primal energy.
Yeah. True that.
Yeah.
You
Man.
You were hesitant on the love thing, bro.
Yeah, I know that was weird. That's for the record. There's something that comes from. So that comes from. I know where that comes from. So that's self-doubt, and the self-doubt comes from caring too much about people's opinions.
Oh,
so that's what that was.
Well, but I kind of get
but
it.
See, y'all, like that's the work, right? I know I'm aware of it, but see how that lurks. Let's earmark that real quick. Mm-hmm. That was an unconscious process running through me that I was not consciously aware of. Mm-hmm. And because of that, you caught me. Love, how many times you hear me say love on a day-to-day? Yeah. But for some reason, I couldn't say it on the show right there.
Yeah.
See, y'all? Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. Those are like those slip of the tongues, those behaviors that you do.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like, why am I 20 feet from the shore? Mm-hmm. You didn't even know you did it.
Exactly, yeah. No, I was going to say, I kind of get it because love, I feel like, especially in like the new age world of woo-woo and stuff, it's like, oh, y'all got to have love. It's kind of like that, that old school hippie vibe. But I will say, I've never thought of it that way. I think there's true strength in that stuff.
Awesome.
And
I'm grateful for that.
The greatest example is because I'm rereading it right now. I try to read it once a year, is Lord of the Rings. And spoiler alert, but people made fun of when the movies came out. Sam is Frodo, the main character's best friend, his love and their relationship for Frodo. And they kind of tried to say it was homosexual. It wasn't. It was actually based on the love that Tolkien found in World War I with the soldiers with him that were in the trench warfare, and he saw the people that helped him survive. He had a soldier that was his best friend that was exactly like Sam, supportive, loving, and died. And so a lot of that character was based off that guy. But the reason why I bring that up is because Sam's love is actually the true hero of the story. Spoiler alert, but Frodo fails. Frodo is supposed to take the ring to Mordor, drop it in the volcano of Mount Doom, and destroy it once and for all, destroy evil. And along the whole way, it's constantly tempting him. It's destroying his body. It's weakening him. It's making him more of a spirit wraith than a physical person. Mm-hmm. It's taking his toll. He finally gets to Mount Doom, bro, like over 3 movies, 3 books. He goes inside the cave, and he's about to drop it in. And he turns around and says, no, I'm not going to do it. And he fails. He fails the final temptation, and he puts it on. Well, all the while, the famous Gollum character that everybody knows about, at least if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, you know about Gollum, who's also chasing after the ring and who Frodo had mercy on. That's why he's alive. He jumps out of nowhere. He's been following them, and he wants the ring too. So he jumps on Frodo's hand, bites off his finger, and bites off the ring. And as he's dancing and celebrating, he falls into the volcano, and the ring is destroyed by Gollum's folly. But Frodo failed, and Sam is the one who carried him on his back up the volcano, like up the mountain. Uh-huh. He carries him out, and they get saved. And it was Sam saved him from, he at one point is captured by this spider, and the orcs have him. Sam faces his fears and travels up this tower and fights all these orcs and saves Frodo. So like literally the whole way, Sam is carrying, because he loves Frodo so much, it's his best friend, the hero of the story, who ends up technically failing, to the actual ends. He carried him literally. And Tolkien always was big on the love of friendship, like the strength in love and friendship. Like the way to defeat the ultimate evil of all world and all time was through the love of a friendship between Sam and Frodo.
And I'm going to go ahead and overcome an unconscious fear of mine and say that primal energy is divine love.
There you go. That checks out. Because I think that's what you were experiencing outside when you stumbled upon this concept.
And I think the harnessing of primal energy becomes when we can I guess I'll say, I was going to say experience divine love for ourselves, but I think I want to go with be divine love.
Yeah.
Like when you care so much about doing something positive with this experience that you see someone who drops something, man, you pick them up. Mm-hmm. That's Sam carrying Frodo up the mountain. Yep. That's a divine act of love. Mm-hmm. That's life caring for life. That's primal energy.
Yep.
When if you were to call me and you needed something, I'd be there.
Yeah.
Because there's that love, that primal energy. And I think what's cool is when we sift through the unconscious, and identify, explore, and understand a lot of those traumas and experiences and things that we've been taught, like we're able to, I think, see that a little clearer, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's primal energy, dude.
It's
divine love, y'all.
It's crazy. We landed there. It's awesome.
As I harness through my own demons,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I was able to say that. Primal energy, y'all, is divine love. That's powerful.
Yeah.
You are in a powerful place, man.
Hell yeah.
And it starts with sifting through all those things and being able to have divine love for yourself. And it takes a lot of work. And you're going to have to face a lot of dragons.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to dive deep, deep, deep to start that alchemical process of spiritual transformation that will occur.
Mm-hmm.
That will occur.
Yep.
But it starts with having that divine love for yourself, because at that point, reality becomes a mirror of that divine love that you're experiencing inside yourself. And the experience becomes of positive nature and support to life. That's primal energy, man. Supporting life through divine love.
Yeah. Love it. That's awesome. We landed there.
And we got there through a very methodical process, man.
Yeah. We thoroughly explored it.
We went through the structure of self and Dr. Paul Conti's pillars of mental health, half of it, to get to Dr. Hawkinson's consciousness research using kinesiologic muscle testing and emotional states and whether they're being forceful or powerful. And it got us to the pinnacle of, the map of consciousness, which is divine love is pretty darn near the top.
Yeah.
A very powerful state. And I think that's a very practical way to land on episode 45 is primal energy, this power that'll get 500 pounds up in the weight room or get you and your buddy to just devote to just creating and coming together. And man, we haven't heard the helicopters in a while.
Dang. That's crazy.
That's cool. Kicking it old school with that. Couple friends coming together and just listening to helicopters while recording a podcast in our lab, the UP lab.
Yeah, man.
That's divine love, y'all.
For sure.
That's primal energy.
It's crazy because that's where you wanted to start. When I was talking about reallocating energy in the bench press, remember?
Yeah.
You were like, I think that's pretty close to love, bro. And we went all around, but yeah. So I think that's full circle, bro. Because I think that's where we landed.
I think the infinite I am is love.
Oh, for sure.
A very loving presence, a very joyful presence. What are all these other ways we've described this kind of abstract idea on this show?
It's that Wu Wei, the flowing.
That current. We use the current, in the Tao Te Ching.
Yep. Tai Chi. The reallocation of energy.
Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching calls it,
the nameless.
I know he says
things.
The nameless can't be named. What's he say that? But I thought he gave a specific term to kind of what we're referring to: infinite I am, source, higher self.
I don't know. I'll have to break that back out. Yeah,
I got it on the shelf. I'm gonna have to remember. I think that's what we got into. Is that that's primal energy, man? And if you find it hard to be life supportive and just someone who's trying to do good with the responsibility that we've been gifted with and kind of take it on with agency and gratitude, then we also talked about that in the show too. We talked about some very practical ways of exploring some of those unconscious negative self-beliefs or some unconscious, negative, programming, just a belief system in general that was told to you.
Yeah.
That's kind of getting in the way of seeing the world in a lighter way.
Yeah.
Do the work and kind of go through those things and get help if you need it, for sure. There's a ton of amazing counselors and therapists out there just waiting to help.
Yeah.
But to get to that primal energy, man, that divine love, that thing that kind of drives life that Anthony and I picked apart tonight. It's going to take some self-knowledge first.
Yes.
And I hope this show was able to show you that it's through self-knowledge that we harness this primal energy that is divine love, and it will allow us to experience the world in a way that is healthy, meaningful, and fulfilling. And that's primal energy.
Yep. Yeah, I'm glad you reiterated that point at the end there. That's going to start with self-knowledge. That's where we started on the show. Know thyself. So if you're looking for a place to start there and enjoy the lifelong journey that's going to become.
Yeah.
Or should become.
It's literal all the way to the end, man.
Mm-hmm.
All the way to the end. Well, I hope you guys got something out of this. What do you think, man? Pretty good one. I thought that went well.
Yeah, no, it was good.
I think we got...
I'm sorry for those that watched for the camera card going full. I forgot to format the card before we started, but we got most of it.
Yeah.
we got an hour out of the hour 17.
Whatever. Yeah, we kept it going, but... All right, well, that's that. Primal energy, divine love, unconscious mind, structure of self, self-knowledge, healthy relationship with self. Hope some of those key points came out episode 45, and keep working on those beliefs, make them powerful, believe in yourself, believe in others, and most importantly, believe in what you can potentially become when you start this journey that is, I guess, life, man.
Yeah.
Send us out, man. What you got?
Nothing, bro. I think if you're enticed by the power, the potential power of a primal energy and all that peace and awareness could bring to you, that then hopefully this show gave you the first steps to start to work through the obstacles that are in the way that need to be healed, that need to be implemented to begin to even reach that power. And that first step is, like we said, I can't reiterate it enough, self-knowledge and knowing thyself. But I can't think of any other way to live, no matter what your job is, no matter what your responsibilities are. At the end of the day, knowing that each day I'm trying to wake up, learn to be the best version of me that I can be. I can't think of another way to live. I just wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do it.
That's how you evolve, and that's how life evolves. Mm-hmm. Just start doing that wherever you are, whatever context you find yourself in. Just seriously, just face it with the utmost agency and gratitude and humility. Mm-hmm. And just do everything you can to improve the environment and experience around you. Like, just do all you can and just watch what could potentially start happening. And I think that's what primal energy is. It's tapping into that thing within you that wants so bad to be where they're at, but want to make things better for later. That's primal energy. That's evolution. That's personal growth. That's conscious-based performance. And this is the Ultimate Pill Podcast, episode 45. Love y'all so much. We out.